welcome to Running Your Stories.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming along, Becky. I'm very interested to hear your story. As we were just saying before we kind of started properly, that a mutual friend, Steph Dwyer, introduced us and said that you've got a great story to tell. So I'm led to believe, and you're very welcome to start further back in your story, but I'm led to believe that a particularly interesting part of your story is from when you were rescued by CRO a few
Oh,
years ago.
yes. 2 years ago, I work as a vet, so I do a lot of time on call, which when you are a person who really likes being out and about and in the hills, it can be very frustrating. So it was Easter Sunday, and I was second on call, so really hoping that I'd have a quiet time. And so we decided to go climbing and just do some easy climbing really close to the car. And I would keep my phone in my pocket so that if I had to go and carve a cow, I could, ab down and go and carve the cow and then potentially even come back and do some more climbing. And it was all going well. And then I couldn't get a nut out. So my partner Tom, he led up a route and I followed him and was taking the gear out and was being a bit pathetic. I just could not get this nut out. When you're hammering at it, you're pulling on it, you get them to take, and it's just taking too much time. And I was thinking, oh dear. And I knew I could feel my phone buzzing in my pocket. It was just really annoying. He was like, oh, just come on. So I came up and left him to ab down and get this nut out of the climb. And it's just a little crag, limestone, fairly near Settle where we used to live, on a scree slope above one of my farms. And I was just scrambling down back down the crag to then descend back round. And I put my hand back to sort of push off the rock, and I could feel that I pushed off it and it came towards me. And this massive boulder, sort of fridge freezer size, split in two and just came off the wall. And I just rolled down the hill, and the boulder rolled after me, and you lose all sense of time apart. You don't know where is up, where is down. There's no panic. You just have in your head, oh dear, I mustn't get squished by this. And then I found myself at the bottom of the hill with a broken leg. I remember as I was falling, I was thinking, oh, I'm all right. Everyone's going to think I'm such an idiot. They're going to laugh at me for this. And then I remember being very aware that my leg was broken. I was still falling. And I was at the bottom. And CRO came to pick me up, which was incredibly embarrassing because I knew them all. I think as well I did a fair bit of screaming, which the farmers in the valley heard. So I'm still hearing about that. So in fact, Steph, who you spoke to, wasn't one who came and picked me up, but she's one of she's very heavily involved in CRO. So that was 2 years ago, and I've recovered very nicely since then.
So yeah, so it sounds like a great adventure. Which part of your leg did you break? Lower leg, upper leg?
Yeah, so it was lower leg, and it was quite badly crushed. So difficult to tell how many breaks, but they reckoned about 8.
Nice.
But I was so lucky in that my ankle, obviously there was some soft tissue damage, but the joint was fine, and the joint of my knee was fine, and my upper leg was fine, which was absolutely incredible. And if it was also so lucky that I didn't hit my head, or it wasn't a child underneath or anything like that, because it's a path that loads of people go up. So it could have ended far worse. So I got the air ambulance to Preston. We were meant to be having some visitors at that point, so I know they were camped outside our house waiting and wondering why we weren't turning up to let them in. I also know a carving came in and I wasn't able to do that. And then I had 2 weeks in Preston Hospital, and the fantastic surgeon there eventually managed to, after me being adamant that I wanted him to skewer it, basically to put a intermodulatory rod in it, despite the number of pieces. He managed to do that, and I came home.
Excellent. Oh, it sounds like a very well broken leg, and it's always a good start to a story. If fridge trees are sizable, they're split in half and crushed me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the boulder's still there.
Yeah.
I have been and seen it.
Yeah. So from 2 years ago, having quite a badly broken leg,
Yeah.
And rock climbing, from the little, I haven't stalked you fully on Facebook. I haven't had time, but from the little I've seen on there, rock climbing seems to be your main sport.
Yeah, and just spending as much time outside adventuring in the hills as possible. Rock climbing was something I was able to do quite soon. So I broke my leg early May, and we were able to go climbing Morocco in November, when I found that I couldn't walk very comfortably, and I definitely couldn't run, but climbing was something I could do, because there's no jarring of your leg, and also it doesn't really matter if you've got a strength discrepancy or a length discrepancy or anything like that. So climbing is something I've been able to keep going. I mean, I'm not a very good climber. I'm just I just love being outside and having adventures.
Yep. So at some point you must have started getting into some running.
Yeah, so it came very naturally, actually. Everybody says that when you have a bad injury, it must be really hard to force yourself to rest. And it's really not, because you can't do any more. You just have to rest. I was very much at a stage where I couldn't walk on the leg. It was also very painful to have it down. So I did a lot of very strange sort of flamingo poses with one leg up in the air. Frequently, if I was out on my crutches, I'd then sort of stop and rest and put my head down and put my leg up. But gradually it started working, and it was just natural to walk more and then try running. So I did my first fell race. I'm probably getting all the dates a bit muddled up. I think maybe Morocco was a little bit earlier, and Lissenberg's fell race was in November. So I went around that. That was my first run, actually. The first run, more than about 10 paces, and I came absolutely last. But that was really, really fun to do. And then just started doing more and more. I would say it took me probably a bit over a year before I could run downhill without feeling pain. And actually, probably a year and a half before I haven't felt any pain from it at all. The only thing I do sometimes notice is, just because it's shortened now by a centimetre and a bit, that and my legs aren't massively long, I do get a little bit of backache, but other than that, it's really good.
So it's really good for traversing, as long as you're going in the right
direction.
Exactly,
like a haggis. As long as you go the right way around the hill, you're fine.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about that with the pain that you were having in the leg as you were starting to run. Something I've been thinking about a lot lately, having been injured nowhere near as severely, but is that sometimes having the pain can make you really focus on your posture and your technique. I just wondered if you think it's had that kind of effect, whereby if you ran with really good technique, you would have less pain than if you were overstriding or something like that. And
I would like to agree with you, but I can't. I would really like to say yes, of course it did. But I didn't really think about it very much. I just started doing it, and I'm sure I was running atrociously before. I did some running with a friend who's an equine vet, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I can hear you not running evenly," because she's used to listening to horses. So unfortunately not. It didn't make me think about anything very much.
Yeah, well, not necessarily thinking about, is this correct technique or is this not correct technique, but more just thinking about, well, this doesn't hurt, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I guess it makes you more present, doesn't it?
Yeah, the thing that doesn't hurt certainly at that point of time is the correct technique, because that's what your body needs. So
yeah, I had a lot of inflammation in my Achilles, so I spent a long time walking and running around without basically with a very, very strange foot position, because I didn't really want to stretch my calf muscles that much. So that was a fairly obvious period where I was, I suppose, trying to protect it by walking in a strange way.
yeah, would be interested. I mean, it's probably a bit late now, but to have some video of your different stages with the technique would be interesting.
It would be.
To see how it developed over time.
Absolutely. And it's great, isn't it? Because it's like, if you're learning to ski, you feel like you're improving every day. And it was really gratifying and encouraging to feel every week you could do a little bit more. And so it wasn't hard to do stuff, because it gave you that positive boost that every time you tried, you could do a little bit more.
I know exactly what you mean. When I first started running the sort of big distances, as you say, each time you go and you feel you can go that bit further, each race you get faster.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so easy to be motivated, and then at some point you plateau. That's when it's hard to hard to motivate. Yeah. So that's really, I can really see that positive sort of feedback from
definitely,
making progress.
Absolutely.
So at what point did you start setting lofty goals for your running?
So I think a lot of people who run ultras were never incredibly sporty at school. I mean, I was pretty rubbish at catching. I mean, I was in the netball team because I was really keen, but I wasn't that great. I wasn't that great at throwing. I could sprint really fast, but I definitely wasn't a natural athlete at all. But I think when you become an adult and you start running, you don't have to be a natural athlete. And it's the people who've got the stubbornness to keep going and the motivation to push themselves that actually discover it's something that they can do and that they really enjoy doing. So I think the two sort of what you like to do totally changes. I've always just loved being in the hills. I love the views, I love the space, I love the freedom. I love the fact that you aren't thinking really about the past. You're thinking you're just in that present moment. And it's one of the few places where you have that space to be entirely in that present and a real happiness. And I also think, as you said earlier, that it's a great chance to have time to talk to people and really engage with them without it being too focused and static, in a situation inside in a room where you're trying to talk and it might be awkward. You've got that common goal that you're going somewhere. So it's very much about the journey for me. I'm not really, I think it's because I'm not good enough, but I'm not really motivated by winning things or doing particularly well. It's just I absolutely love being out there, and I love the adventure. So I've always done a lot of that. My partner is really good at mountaineering. So I've done a lot of quite difficult and complex mountaineering routes just through virtue of him taking me on them and really enjoying them. My stamina's always been pretty good, and I think that's just because I'm really stubborn. And I've got quite stubby legs that don't seem to get too tired. But so it was something that I wanted to do just before I broke my leg. And I'd got this targets on the fridge of how far I was running each week, how high I was running each week. And it was all there, all my training. And then I remember coming back and noticing that being subtly, everything had disappeared from the fridge, and the labeled maps had gone away and things like that. So it was unfinished business that I wanted to do this year, because it would to sort of put a full stop on my leg injury.
Yep. And so, just because you haven't actually named what it was, and anybody that's listening will be wondering what you're talking about. So we are talking about the Bob Graham round, aren't we?
Yes, we are the Bob Graham round.
Yeah.
A wonderful, wonderful circuit of the Lakeland Fells with your friends. And it was it's amazing to do it because it's one of the few occasions where everybody is working together to help you achieve something that you really want to achieve. And I think a race, yes, everyone wants you to do well, but it's not quite the same. Whereas it was just amazing and so humbling to have so many people wanting me to do well. So really special experience.
Yeah, so I'll just expand on that for anybody that's not familiar with it. So the way the Bob Graham round works, and I've not done one myself, but I have been out supporting other people, because again, that's part of the whole ethos, is that it's around in the Lake District. There's a few rules around it. They're actually asking people to have smaller support groups and things now for conservation and things like that. But the idea is that you start off by doing what I've done so far, is I volunteer to go along and carry kit for other people that are doing it. And so you usually have the runner, a navigator, and a mule or a donkey. That's the role I've done a couple of times now. And so you go along and you carry some kit for somebody else, and you help them get around. And it's great fun doing that, because there's not much pressure on you when you're just carrying the kit, as long as you can keep up and don't go too slow on the descents. And then you progress on maybe to navigating some legs once you start to learn it. And in doing so, you've helped other people. And then when you decide you're ready to do the full round yourself, which is a very tough 24-hour round, all those people that you've helped, and usually a few others that are trying to earn their support, they all come and support you. And it's just absolutely brilliant.
It's teamwork, isn't it?
It is
teamwork to enjoy 24 hours in the fells, or much faster for some people.
Yeah. No, I think mine will be 23 and a half hours. I'm not fast. I run a long way, but I'm not fast. So yeah, it's you say, it's just an absolutely brilliant thing. So I haven't fully experienced that case where other people are carrying your kit and navigating for you. I did a kind of a self-organized, myself and one friend organized a 100-mile run last summer, when there was no races on. And so we had friends coming out to do like support points out the back of their cars. And so that was a kind of small step in that direction, in that, there was two of us trying to run the whole thing, and then there was probably 20 people involved in total. So it's a similar kind of idea, having people at the roads and a few people come along and run some legs with you. But we carried our own kit. That was the main difference.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was I cheated. I got other people to carry mine.
No, well, that's the way it's done on the Bob Graham, because you're trying to see how fast can you run while you've got that support around you. It's the same kind of technique that's used for fastest known times and things like that. If you're trying to break the Pennine Way record, or anything else you might have in your future. Yeah. So how the Bob Graham round itself, how did that go?
Oh, it was so good. It started badly. So we live in Kendal now, and I decided that it would be sensible. So I'd swapped all my on-call to, I swapped on my on-call to last week. So I had nothing on. I had a nice restful time, did my farm visits, and then we went up to the campsite in Keswick to try and get an early night, so we didn't have to set off. So I'd chosen to set off at 2 a.m. in the morning on a 22-hour schedule. So you give yourself and your pacers times where you want to be on each summit, to just help you make sure that you will achieve the times that you want to do, or at least know if you're going too far behind. And we got into the tent, and it was boiling. It was really, really hot. So we stripped off and lay on top of our sleeping bags, and then it got to about 10:30, an ice cream van came around the campsite, and then about 11 someone decided it was fun to fly a drone, and then some people were just having a really nice time, so Tom, my partner, got up and said, "Can you be quiet please?" So they sort of were quiet, and then we needed to leave. And I think they thought, what on earth is going on, as these people who just told them to be quiet then left. So I'm very much an amateur at this, so my nutrition was probably bad, but I decided it's going to be really, really hot, and I really like chocolate. So I thought I'll have a whisper in the car before I start, just to give myself a chance to eat some chocolate, otherwise I won't. And a whisper and some coffee, and we set off. So I was with two pacers, leaving the moot hall at the same time as another guy from Lonsdale, who was doing it with two friends actually of mine who I used to live with. So it was really nice, although they shot off and we jogged behind. Having never done anything like this, it's really interesting to tell yourself to not go too quickly at the start, because you're really excited and you're fresh and you've eaten loads of carbohydrates and you're just raring to go, but you just have to tell yourself to walk, and it feels totally counterintuitive. So we set off, and the first peak is Skiddaw. Beautiful night, really warm. I just wore a vest. It was a full moon. I had two fantastic pacers. Unfortunately, one of them had a really busy week and driven down to Scotland for it, driven down from Scotland to help me, and not had any sleep, and just his body wouldn't go. So we lost him, unfortunately, and he's normally really good. He just wasn't working for him. So we wondered whether we should wait. We waited a little bit, and then we just kept going, and his head torch sort of went further and further away, which was unfortunate. That he had, as you say, you get mules to carry different things. He had all the food and all the water. So we set off on leg one, and it was fine. My other pacer had a bottle of fizzy water, which I drank, which really isn't ideal. It's quite acidic and it makes you feel a little bit strange, but it was fine. And we hardly needed our head torches, actually. Our route choices were good. I did keep looking at the map, just because I thought it would really help me to know where I was, to be able to pace myself and feel as though I was progressing. And then so it's a tour of the Northern Fells, which are very wild, a bit more like than some of the rest of the Lake District. And it was wonderful in the darkness, just the two of us, actually. It feels very intimate, and you've got lots of time to just talk, and it was wonderful. And the clouds, there were just a few clouds perched on the top of Blencathra as we went up to the top, and the sun was just coming up, so you got this wonderful pink glow over these thick clouds, and you could tell it was going to be a really hot day, but they were just lingering on the top. So we got to the top, and Roger decided he would wait and just check that Dom was all right. And luckily Tom, my partner, was stood. I could see his silhouette, sort of long and gangly, surrounded by the clouds, on the waiting at the trig point. So he met me there. I ate some of his food. Thank you, Tom. He's not very good when he gets hungry, but anyway, I ate some of his food, and he took me down the parachute descent, which is basically quite a steep drop just down the face of Blencathra. I decided I was going to do, so there are loads and loads of different options coming off Blencathra. I decided I wanted to do the parachute if it was dry, and I was going to do Dodic if it was wet, which is one of the most gentle descents, which does add quite a bit of distance. Most people do Hall's Fell, but I thought that I would struggle with the loose sort of powder scree on the path, and actually there's a bit of a trod down the parachute, and it was brilliant, because although it was very steep, it was grassy. So that was fantastic. And into Thralkeld, changed my shoes, had a mini roll, more chocolates. Had a packet of, no, I didn't, maybe not, but that was later. And met my two pacers for leg two. So Martin, who took me over leg two, and Matty. Martin was there when I broke my leg, and he was absolutely brilliant. He is so competent and confident at and really just took charge of the situation. And he was just, and they were just like this in the leg. I knew where I was going, but there are quite a few times where you have to make sure you go off the path or off the ridge so you don't miss the summit. It would be horrendous. You have to visit all of the summits. It would be awful if you got to the end and realised there was one you'd missed. So he was really good at making sure I went to every one. And Matty was brilliant at just constantly giving me water. I wasn't very good at eating. I think I wasn't feeling very hungry. But I did have a packet of crisps, and that was about it. And that was wonderful. It was a perfect temperature. It was cool. You've got a big climb at the start where I was feeling really good for, and then just a wonderful zigzag along the ridge of the Helvell and the Dodds. And then dolly wagon at the end. It's really steep, so I just scooted down on my bum, which actually gave me a few minutes. And then some friends had camped by Grisdale Tarn to see me, which was amazing. It was just so nice that they'd come, and I felt really humbled that they'd come out to see me. So that was really, really motivating. And there was also amazing cloud inversion for some of it. So it was just really joyful running. It was just wonderful. And then into Dunmail, where I met Steph and Mike and my sister. So from Dunmail, leg 3 is definitely the leg I was most worried about. I'd gone with Roger, my friend and pacer from the first leg, to try and recce a bit not that long ago in the mist, and we'd wanted to do most of the leg, and we'd ended up doing about 3 of the peaks and just running round and round and round in circles, and my shoe completely fell off and like ripped in half, and we didn't get anywhere. I had run it a few times before. I'd paced it for someone else, and I had done it in sections, but I really was quite worried about it. So the fact that it wasn't horrendous to start with made me feel brilliant. And Steph was fantastic at just chatting away, being really encouraging, being quite bossy and getting me to eat loads. So I ate pizza and sweets and more crisps. And Mike, who spent a lot of time in the lakes, he really knew the route. So it was brilliant. And actually the visibility was so good, I needn't have worried. And it's, in hindsight, I think I maybe should have done an anti-clockwise round on the clockwise round, because there are a lot of trods now on a clockwise round, and the erosion isn't great, but it did make it easier for us to have those trods. So it's definitely something I maybe should have thought about, but I thought it would be a big enough challenge. I wanted to give myself as much of a shot at it as I could. It was very hot, and I'm not very good at the heat, so I was drinking an awful lot to try and stop myself getting dehydrated. Steph was giving me jelly snakes. Sometimes I didn't want to eat the jelly snakes, so I was putting them in the pockets of my shorts, which when I came to wash them afterwards was absolutely disgusting. And I was really lucky in that Sabrina Virgie came and ran a section from Pike and Stickle to Rossett Pike with me, which was amazing to be with such a legend. And I probably ran a bit too fast, but I was feeling really, really good and really strong and not tired. And then I got to Bowfell, and I just felt like, I don't know what it was, but I felt like I was giving myself water poisoning. I felt really spaced out. My vision felt really funny. I didn't feel very good at all. So I lay on the top of Bowfell and pleaded with Mike to find me something salty. And he gave me some more crisps. So I ate some crisps on top of Bowfell and carried on. And I would say the route before then was just pure pleasure. From Bowfell until the end of leg 3 was a bit of a struggle. I was just so hot, and I felt I didn't feel very good. My legs felt fine and they felt strong, but I was just so hot. Now, when you get to Scafell Pike, there are quite a few different options, aren't there, getting to the
Yes.
top. So I did broadstand, which is just one slightly awkward step. And Tom, my partner, and his dad came and rigged it up for me. And actually that was a really good move because I managed to gain back quite a lot of time on that. Well, I'd been gaining a lot of time anyway, but I then sort of slipped back into the time I was originally planning on and actually lost a little bit from Beaufort while I was feeling a bit strange. But going at broadstand was brilliant, helped me gain loads of time. And it's just one step, so it really didn't feel difficult at all. And then Tom, Steph and Mike went off for a swim. They were absolutely brilliant paces. And I carried on with Tom down into Wasdale. By this time, I was really, really struggling with my back. My posture, I think, was really bad, and I was just struggling with the amount of time that I'd been running with the slight tilt of my back. So that sort of added to the fact that it was a bit of a low point, and I was just so hot. So just when I found a stream, trying to put everything out, sit myself in the stream and cool down a little bit. But I had done leg 3, which was really, really good, and it felt like I'd done most of the hard things. Sabrina was absolutely amazing, although I must say, she did say when I got to Beaufort, I was thinking, oh great, I've broken the back of this, and she said, you're doing really well, you're nearly halfway, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I thought I'd done more than that. And then leg 4 was again, it was really enjoyable, and I did gain some time, but it was just very hot. It's the sort of the fells from Wastwater, so you start with a really, really steep climb up Yew Barrow, and then there's not too much climbing after that, actually. Well, there's a couple of bigger ones, but nothing too bad. Tom's mum and dad met me just before Gable and brought a fairly big carton of orange juice, which I downed, and that made me feel pretty weird, pretty sick. So I was feeling a little bit dodgy until Gable, and then suddenly I just felt brilliant, and I don't know why. So from Gable down into Honister, I felt really good. I could run, and I'd been actually to Tom and a really, really good friend had been doing that leg with me, so they were very good at getting me through another bit of a low point. I also had poles, which really helped my back. So down into Wasdale, had a bit of a bacon sandwich. Oh, sorry, no, we've done that. And down into Honister, loads of friends and family were there, which was just amazing. It really gave me so much motivation to see them all there. It's just I've never had anything like that before, where everybody's behind you to achieve something. It was wonderful. So I sat on a crate and had some rice pudding, and then I was off, and it had cooled down a bit. I felt really, really strong. My legs felt absolutely fine, and I just enjoyed the last leg. Unfortunately, I lost another pacer. My sister was doing that leg with me, and she decided that a really good pre-run snack was 3 boiled eggs that had been sat in the car for a day and then been out the fridge for a day, and so we had to abandon her on the top of Robinson, which I was a bit worried about, but we managed to get in touch with someone to pick her up, and then into Keswick, which was just amazing as well, because there were lots of people there, the shops were open, people were outside, it was a really nice night, and I ran in as fast as I could to a big cheer, so it was absolutely brilliant.
So if you'd set off at 2 a.m. and the shops were open when you finished, that must have been a quick time.
So I started on it. Well, I was aiming for a 22-hour schedule, and I did it in 20 hours 23, so a little bit faster. which I was really pleased with, actually, because
Yes.
I had no idea. I'm absolutely no idea how easy it would be, whether I'd do it, anything like that. So yeah, I was really pleased with that.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good time in my book anyway. Yeah, 'cause actually, it's when you were talking about the heat there, it made me realize you were doing this on the weekend I was doing the Lakeland 100 the same
Oh,
weekend.
were you? Yes. Yeah.
And it was insanely hot.
It was, wasn't it? And it was really humid. It's just the sort of heat that you can't, even if you cover yourself in water, it doesn't really make that much difference.
No.
Yeah, I felt the Lakeland 100 must have been hard, though. I felt a lot of admiration for everyone, because you're just going for such a long time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's what a fantastic experience on the BG.
I would definitely recommend it. Definitely.
Yeah. So I was just noting down names as you were talking through the different legs, because we can do a bit of a shout out to all of your pacers.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Yeah. So let me go through my list, and because I think I might not have got one or two from legs 4 and 5.
Oh, so I've got
Roger.
Leg
Dom,
1 was Roger
Tom,
and Dom,
yeah.
and Jude was my road support, and she was brilliant. She had been on an island catching birds for her postdoc, and she came down to feed me mini rolls and coffee, which was amazing, and a lot of effort for that. And then leg 2 was Matt and Martin. Leg 3 was Steph and Mike and Evie. Leg 4 was Joe and Tom, and Tom's mum was road support. Leg 5 was Josh and Evie, and Andrina was road support. And I actually also had Joe and Andrina on the tandem accompanying me along the road section. Andrina kept saying, "Oh, I'm really sorry, you can hear the great brakes squeaking behind us," but I couldn't, it was fine.
I wonder how many people have had a tandem riding alongside them for the last
exactly. It was great. And they used, like, when we got into Keswick and there were cars, they sort of rode the tandem into the middle of the road and stopped the traffic. So it was great.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's absolutely. To be honest, I'm amazed that you could run such a fast time on that weekend when it was so hot. Obviously some people are good in the heat, but it doesn't sound like you consider yourself to be good in the heat.
I tend to melt in the heat.
Yeah.
But it was actually, we were really, really lucky because the ground was nice and dry.
Yes.
And the visibility was really good. So I think had it been really wet, it would have slowed you down, or if you hadn't been able to see it, it'd be much harder. You'd have got lost. My pacers were really good and knew the way really well. I mean, Josh, he lives over, I mean, he works in Ripon, he's the other side of the Dales, and he somehow had managed to learn leg 5. So we knew where every rock was, every little bit of scrambling, and he was just like, do this, do this, do this. So I was just really lucky to have people with me who really knew what they were doing and were generous enough to give me not only the time doing it with me, but time scouting out for before so I was really, really thankful for that.
No, like you say, the whole ethos is just brilliant, isn't it? Bunches amazing, of friends going out into the hills and supporting each other around. Absolutely brilliant. So,
what next is the question, isn't it?
So what next?
When do you think you'll do it?
I'm looking at May or June next year. Is what I'm thinking. Just depends how dry it is and how many chances I get to go up to the lakes and cover some legs before then.
If you ever want anyone to do any legs with you, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, that'll be brilliant. It's more the merrier on these things. Obviously,
absolutely.
Taking care of you know what I'm trying to say. Taking care of the environment, as soon as that word doesn't want to come out straight. Conservation. So yeah, wouldn't want to run around with 100 people, but in general, it's good. But yeah, yeah. So what is next?
I have no idea. I'm just doing loads of on call at the moment. I would like to. I really didn't know how I would manage, and because I enjoyed it so much, I would like to try something else of a similar length, if not longer. I also, I think it was probably that you're not going very fast. You're never overstretching yourself, and you're drinking loads, and you're taking on the calories. So my legs felt absolutely fine afterwards, like properly fine. So I would really like to try something that's multi-day, and see whether actually that recovery or the lack of perceived fatigue helps me with that.
Yeah. So you're looking at something else in the lakes, or do you think you're going to go elsewhere?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Steve Parr round could be good.
What's that?
It's a bit longer. it's a similar kind of thing.
Is it a lot longer?
I don't know if you know Howard Dracup. He lives in Kendal as well.
Oh right, no, I don't.
Right, okay, yeah. So he had the record for it for a short time. It's been broken again this year.
Oh right, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I'll look up the Steve Parr round.
I will do. I feel a bit like that might be a bit too much, but I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, well, I don't know it in detail, but it's not far off 2 Bob Graham's.
Oh wow! I'd love to do something like the Cape Wrath Trail actually, but potentially not the race. Just go and do it
so
as fast as I can.
Watching Sabrina this week.
Yeah, I am. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
But something like that, and I just because I enjoyed it so much, and I got so much. I say that leg 3 and 4 were hard. They were hard, but only compared to the rest. They were still enjoyable. So I definitely would like to try something else.
Okay. Well, I know of something that's going on that you might want to see some of. I'll speak to you after we'll finish recording.
Yeah, do
because it's not quite public information yet. Yeah, it's incredible, to be honest, to go from 2 years ago having a bad break and sort of being injured, because as I was saying, I was injured earlier this year. It was tendinitis kind of issue, which it just interrupts all your training. You've got to get off your feet for. It was probably only like a week or something that I absolutely couldn't run for, but then you just got to build up again so carefully, and it impacts you for such a long time, and so for you to go from where you were 2 years ago to putting in a under 20.5 hours BG, I think it's incredible.
I do just think I've been so lucky. I've had such good support, and it really is. I mean, everyone has hard things in their life, and I reckon I've had things that have been much harder to get over when you're mentally struggling. Whereas if you have a physical injury, everyone sees you've got a physical injury, and everyone wants to help you get over that. And if you like being outside, you just do what you like doing, and naturally it comes back. And so, yes, I feel so lucky that it happened, and it is. On the face of it, it's brilliant, but it is just because I had everybody wanting me to do well, and it was one thing that I could just I didn't have to try too hard to recover, just because it was so natural to recover, and because I wanted to be outside as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, and there's obviously something very special about being a vet that keeps producing lots of fantastic runners.
I think it's because we're all so stubborn.
Is that what it is?
I really do. And also used to getting up in the middle of the night. I mean, I don't know how. It's funny, isn't it? Because there are so many amazing sports people who are vets.
Yeah.
But actually, as vets, you really don't have that much free time.
Well, I think I think it's a lot to do with the fact that you're doing a job that involves a lot of natural movement. I mean, it might not seem very natural putting your hand somewhere up a cow, but still, it's things that the human body's been doing for millennia.
Yeah, it's true.
Is tending to animals, being outside, walking about between things, lifting heavy things. Whereas,
absolutely.
like for myself, my job, I'm sat at a desk behind a computer all day long, which is really, really negatively impacts running. And so, trying to move on to standing desks and things like that. But I think being a vet is actually a very healthy job. Of course, any kind of physical job, there's definitely going to be days when you've got bad weather and you've got physically hard work to do, and you're going to be wishing you were in an office. I'm sure, but I'm sure there's a lot more days when you're helping some young lambs in the spring sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky in that I've felt my recovery's been fine. I felt fine the day after, and I've been able to do what I want to do, and my legs haven't hurt. However, today my legs absolutely kill, and I think it's because I was doing loads of sheep vasectomies yesterday, kneeling on a concrete floor. But I woke up this morning, I was really stiff, and I was thinking, oh gosh, this can't be PG now, can it? I was fine. So I think it must give you some sort of training.
Yeah, I think so. Like I say, just that kind of natural job. So well, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about to add to your journey or thank anybody. But it's a great story, really is.
Thank you. I think I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, thanks. And I really love the. To be honest, I love the idea of the flamingo poses while you were trying to.
It was so true. It's so true. I just because I had really poor circulation in my leg because I damaged so many of the blood vessels. If I had it down, blood would just pool in there and it would go really dark red or black and was incredibly painful. So it's just everywhere. In the supermarket on my crutches, in the road. I discovered that I could wash up if I put my foot on the windowsill while I washed up. That was ridiculous.
So you definitely made a mistake letting Tom know about that. You should have just been saying, no, I can't wash up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think he realised when in the middle of the night when I couldn't walk a step, I managed to get downstairs, make a cup of hot chocolate and bring it upstairs on my bum. He realised that I could probably do more than I was letting on.
Quite a practical person. Yeah. So I absolutely love hearing about your love of being out in the hills, and I think that's what drives us all to have these crazy adventures, isn't it? So
and we're so fortunate and lucky to have these spaces around and to have the opportunities to go and explore them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much for letting me speak to you.
Thanks.